Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Aubrey Reeves, CEO of Business and Arts. Before we begin, I'd first like to take a moment to acknowledge that while Business and Arts is a national organization with staff in many territories, I'm speaking to you from Toronto, and I have the honor to be a guest on the traditional lands and waters of the Petun and Wendat people, the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee Confederacies, and most recently the Mississaugas of the Credit River, as well as many other Indigenous nations, some of whose names are no longer remembered. We're grateful to have the opportunity to work, to live, and to meet on these lands. Today's session will include the latest insights from the Arts Response Tracking Survey, also known as ARTS. This project is a partnership between Business and Arts, the National Arts Centre, and Nanos Research, with the support of Irfan Raji and CAMDO. The speaker series is made possible through the generous support of our long-term presenting partner, Power Corporation of Canada, as well as our supporting partners, RBC and Arts Consulting Group. This edition of the survey was in the field in February. The full Arts report is now available in both English and French on our website. This session is being recorded, and the recording will be made available in a few days. We're happy to also have ASL interpretation for today's session. To enable ASL, please click the interpretation icon in the Zoom toolbar, and a new window will open with our interpreter, Jenny Stevens. Auto-generated English and French captions can also be turned on using the Show Captions button. Only the presenters and moderator will have our microphones on today, so please submit your questions in the Q&A box. The session is scheduled for 1 hour and 15 minutes to give us ample time for questions. Now, today's session will be moderated by Shannon Urie, Marketing Director at the National Arts Centre, our Arts Response Tracking Survey partner. With over 30 years of experience in marketing, strategy development, research, and leadership, Shannon joined the NAC in 2011 to help lead the marketing team and manage strategic projects such as the NAC rebrand, the major renovation of the 50-year-old building, the implementation of a new CRM, and overall modernization of marketing practices. Prior to the NAC, Shannon spent most of her career in the private sector at Mead Johnson Nutrition, Corel Corporation, and Procter & Gamble. Thanks for being with us today and leading our discussion of following the latest Arts Response Tracking Survey findings. Over to you, Shannon.
Well, thank you so much, Aubrey, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I'm so happy to be here with you all today to talk about this very interesting topic. I would like to kick things off by actually introducing and welcoming Nik Nanos to present the latest research in the last wave of the survey. As Chief Data Scientist at Nanos Research, Nik has led thousands of research projects in Canada and around the world, ranging from market studies, customer satisfaction tracking, creative testing, program development, and reputation management. And Nik also has lots of depth of experience working in arts and culture, working alongside many organizations such as the Ontario Arts Council, BC Arts, certainly the National Arts Centre, and a variety of other museum and gallery institutions. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Nik, who's going to give us an overview of the findings. Nik.
Thanks, Shannon. Okay, I'm going to do a screen share, and I'm really happy to share the latest round of data on the Arts Response Tracking Survey. And as you know, we do two things. Usually we have the tracking items that we've been monitoring over time since the pandemic, and then we have a spotlight topic. This round's spotlight topic is artificial intelligence. And, Aubrey talked about the survey being done in February. Actually, you can see it's realistically hot off the press. We finished the interviews on February the 16th, less than 10 days ago, and we're able to turn this around. And, what's interesting is that when we think about artificial intelligence, and here's one change, at least from a research perspective, over the last 3 years, we've been now starting to add AI and AI platforms as ways that individuals or means and resources that individuals use to learn about things and to make decisions. So in this particular wave of research that's on the Business and the Arts website, we talked about how people find arts and cultural events. We also asked some questions about AI in terms of making decisions and recommending the use of AI in the future. And then we also have our regular tracking on frequency of visits. And I would hazard to say, I usually don't predict things. I think we'll be doing more research on this topic. One of the things when the team was gathered to talk about how we wanted to unpack artificial intelligence, one of the decisions that we made, and it was a really great decision that we made as a team, was to parse out when it came to kind of methods to have ideas and recommendations for events, to parse out the difference between local arts and culture events and out of town culture events. And we didn't know what would come back, but we actually found some striking differences, which I think is very important for those in the sector in order to kind of navigate how to kind of get on the menu, so to speak. So you can see what we've done is segment kind of three groups generationally, those that are over 55, middle age, and then younger individuals. And you can see at the bottom, we presented a list to people and asked them to pick the methods that they used uh, from a search perspective to find ideas and recommendations for events. And, not a big surprise, but it's interesting to have the number. You can see that for younger people, they're much more likely to use AI for local events and for out-of-town events compared to middle-aged and older people. I think the one thing that I really kind of focused on was the fact that AI among younger people was more likely to be used for out of town events. So you have to think of it as a source for that. That being said, even when we look at those numbers, when we look at the top items that people picked, you can see that search engine across the top still remains the top item. The other thing that I thought was quite striking is that when you look at social media across all of the different generations, is that it over indexes in terms of arts and culture goers using social media for local events, much more likely for local events compared to out of town events. And the other thing that really shouldn't be a surprise, but we have a number to show how striking a difference it is newspapers. Check out, newspapers basically for local decisions. But when you look at the number for those that are 55 years and older, four times more likely, a little less than four times more likely to use newspapers to find ideas and recommendations for events. So I think the key takeaway here, at least, is for younger people, and I see the younger generation as kind of the thin edge of the wedge as they I don't want to say grow up, but get older, become a little more seasoned, but that their adoption is at a particular level, but also for out of town events even higher. Um, the other thing is that what was clear from the research is when we asked about the usefulness when searching for arts and culture events, uh, arts and culture goers were overwhelmingly said that it was useful to one extent or another. That said, it was interesting when we looked at the reasons for people to justify their usefulness score, speed was at the very top. And we have to think of this as kind of like the experience where it's less work for some individuals to use this compared to going to websites and doing Google search. The other thing that's really important is you can see 1 in 10 who viewed AI as useful were still concerned about its accuracy and report reluctance to be dependent on it. You can see 25% said one of those two things. So we have to think of AI, at least as it's reported right now, as something that people generally recognize as being useful, but there's kind of like a little asterisk on the data in terms of people concerned about its accuracy and are worried about being dependent. So maybe one of the ways to think of it, and this is where we are right now, and this is a very fast changing environment, that it's like AI plus, right? So people will want to have a quick response and to speed up kind of how they find different ideas, but at the same time, they're not 100% convinced of its accuracy. So think of a gateway as AI, but then potentially going to an arts and culture website, for example, in order to validate the accuracy of the AI. I thought it was also interesting, and this might be something to be interesting to look at over time in terms of the top AI platforms used. You can see that the most popular one cited by arts and culture goers was ChatGPT at 76%, followed by Gemini and Copilot. Very few people at this particular point in time are using Grok or Claude. But this will be another interesting thing to monitor over time. I kind of see this as kind of akin to the web browser wars. Remember Netscape? If you're really old, you probably remember Netscape. I remember Netscape. But the thing is it'll be interesting to see the competition that these AI platforms kind of roll out over the next while for for kind of the eyeballs of arts and culture goers. And the other thing is that the likelihood of people to recommend AI to others is actually pretty strong. You can see at 72% among those that are using AI. The other thing is, if we want to get a sense of how quickly this adoption might be, you can see, I think we could expect it to double in the short term. You can see 33% of arts and culture goers under 35 years of age said that they're likely to use AI for future services. So you have to think of the 11 to 16% that report that they're currently using. So we could see quite easily a pretty rapid increase in the use of AI in future services. And basically, even among people that are over 55 years of age, it could quadruple in the short term, because remember, for those over 55, I believe it was only like about 1 out of every 20, 4 to 6%, and now the likelihood could go up as high as 20. So I think the other key thing is on the AI front is we should be prepared for a rapid adoption, but we have to remember that people will still question the accuracy of the information that they're getting through AI. This is my last slide, and this is part of our tracking of intended or reported behavior or expected frequency of arts and culture events in the next 12 months. And I think the key takeaway on this front is that not a big surprise now that we are in February. You can see outdoor events. We're expecting an increase in the frequency for outdoor events in the next while. So with that, Shannon, there you have it. AI in a nutshell. I think this is our first dip into the data. Is there such a thing as a data lake? Dipping our toe in the data lake. I think there's
Sounds
going to
good.
be a lot more, lot more to uncover on this. And I think for marketers, I think it's really interesting. It's going to be really interesting to figure out how we navigate this and and kind of leverage, manage, integrate, and complement in order to make sure that those arts and culture goers get the information that they want to see those arts and culture events that they need. So with that, I will go into the chat and I'd be happy to answer any questions for everyone. So Shannon, over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Nik. I like the analogy of data lake. Could be data rapids, given how fast things are changing. So thank you. Yeah, so if you have any methodology or data questions, please do go to the Q&A box and Nik will be moderating that. And you're right in terms of the preoccupation. Certainly for us at the NEC, we absolutely have been really preoccupied with what does this mean for us as marketers? How do we engage with our audiences and our communities? It's really about the pace of change. I think that is probably most dramatic for us. And so really, as arts marketers, we need to be getting ahead of this, not only to look at perhaps risk mitigation, but also to be looking optimistically at what kind of opportunities this uncovers. And so what we have done is gather this wonderful group of experts here on our panel who are going to help us uncover what those can be, also act as a source for us. So if you do have questions, please do add them into the Q&A box. They will be absolutely delighted to answer them. So let me first start off with some introductions. So first to our webinar panel today is Teo Kim. Teo is the Director of Marketing and Communications at the Atlantic International Film Festival, where he leads year-round marketing strategy, audience development, brand partnerships, and digital campaigns across festival and educational programming. With over 15 years of experience in film and cultural marketing, he previously served as marketing director in South Korea, very interesting, leading domestic and international campaigns for more than 40 film projects. Amazing. His work focuses on building meaningful audience engagement through storytelling, strategic partnerships, and data-informed outreach, bridging local community connections with national and international visibility within the not-for-profits art sector. So welcome, Teo. Our next panelist comes from Brooklyn, Dan Titmuss. He's the senior consultant at Capacity Interactive. He works with theaters, museums, and orchestras to help them shine online through smart SEO, content strategy, and thoughtful uses of artificial intelligence. So happy to have this expertise on the panel. Thank you, Dan. He loves helping creative organizations get spotlight that they deserve and is always happy to talk about making websites more findable, which is super important. When not dorking out about digital marketing, he performs comedy, magic, and other oddities in the tiny basement theaters around New York City. How compelling and intriguing. And certainly last but not least, we have Beatrix Feltham, who comes as the media director at Banfield Agency, actually based here in Ottawa, where she leads the media team and oversees campaign strategy, planning, and execution across a wide range of clients and sectors. Again, with over 15 years of experience in paid media, her work focuses on customer journey mapping, uncovering and applying audience insights, and using data visualization to turn complex performance data into clear, actionable direction, something we all need. She has led data-driven campaigns at national levels, certainly helping brands reach the right audiences at the right moments from early discovery to intent. So welcome to all of our expert panelists. We're so happy that you're here. So we're going to just dive right into a few questions. And the first one that is certainly on all of our minds is really if you can give us advice about specific actions or strategies that arts organizations can take to ensure that web content is optimized to make sure that's being accurately, cueing in on Nik's point earlier, accurately findable via AI. So I'm going to start that question and toss it over to Dan, if you could please comment on that.
Yeah, thanks so much. I love this question. I've been doing SEO for the last like 8 or 9 years, and I can't remember another time when there's been so much change in the organic search landscape. Just to get, I could talk for hours about this, but I promise I won't. I'll give you a reasonably brief. But in the past, how people searched was influenced by Google. Of course, it was, right? It's been the king of search for the last 20 years. And whenever we typed in something, we get those 10 blue links and have to sort of like go through all of those blue links, do some research. There's a cost associated with finding that information. I think what has really changed how I've been thinking is how that cost has been reduced. So a lot of people smarter than me call it like the Delphic cost of search. Like, what's the effort you put in to have to go through all those 10 blue links? And now with AI, that's kind of all gone away. So gone are the times that, no, it's not gone away. SEO is still very important, but the focus is a lot more on how does AI take the information that you have, ingest it, then put it back out as a purpose-built piece of content for you. And so a lot of the stuff that we're really, really thinking of at the moment at Capacity is how to make your site readable for AI. And that basically includes a lot of things like SEO, right? A lot of the things that you did for SEO to have good SEO about making your site clear, making your site like have answers that people are asking, creating content that people want to read, making it, technically as good as possible. All of those things are going to really, really help with AEO as well, or answer engine optimization. And it's also worth saying that, we are seeing a lot of movement towards ChatGPT, Gemini, and stuff. But there's also the AI overviews like right at the top of the search engine results page on Google as well. Back in February last year, we basically saw this huge sort of chasm open up in the Search Console. That's the account you have with Google to access the data on there, where impressions went up, but clicks went down. Usually they would follow each other pretty well. A lot of people in marketing who are very dramatic are calling this the great decoupling. And that change is because of the AI overviews that are right at the top of that. People are getting the information they need right at the top of the search engine results page. I think this time last year, around 60% of searches on Google didn't end in a click. And of the clicks that did happen, half of those went to Google properties. That's only 20% of the search that are on Google actually going towards you. So with that in mind, sorry to do like a history lesson first and stuff like that. But with that in mind, the things we're thinking about is just writing really clearly, using semantic completeness whenever we write, in that if you write a sentence on your organization, making sure that that sentence can be taken out of context of the page and still understood by these AI tools. Another thing is structured data. It's a really sort of like dorky, techie SEO thing, but it is something that we are really emphasizing now. It used to be kind of like one of those, like, we really tried to get it on a site. For those of you who don't know, structured data is basically code that Google and other like crawlers, like AI bots, can read and properly understand something. If you've ever searched for a recipe on Google and it has all those like cards with like ratings and the ingredients on, that's from schema. But like one of the things we're looking at a lot is event schema. And it used to be that we got that so Google could take it and understand it. Now we're trying to add that so that AI bots can really easily understand. They love structured data. And the last thing I'll say is like, they don't want to be inaccurate. It was really embarrassing for Google when those AI overviews started and you had all of that stuff at the top of the search engine results page about like, there was one that I saw that like, how do I make the cheese stick to my pizza? Put glue in the cheese. It's like that nonsense that people that like was at the top of the search engine results page is antithetical to what Google wants to do, which is help people get answers that they need so that they can sell a bunch of ads at the top of the search engine results page. It's like business critical that they want to be accurate. So the more that they can do to make sure that they are accurate, the better. So just making sure that you are accurate across the web so that they have confidence in the results that you're putting up there is really important.
Wonderful. Thanks, Dan. I like that notion of sort of changing the lens that they actually do want to be accurate versus always thinking it's a problem we're trying to solve, So that's great advice. Tio, I was wondering if you wanted to weigh in a little bit based on your experience.
Yeah, so I think Dan pointed out a really great point, but from the practical and much more execution side for daily marketing, stuff, like we really try to narrow down very clear definitions and clear sentences to put on the website as Dan described. And because the fear that I might have is the AI not is about the search engine or some new technology, they totally recreate the customer journey because customer will choose the new path to gather the information and even choose to spend their money. For example, we are working for the film festival community event. The way how they search the information is totally changed, which means we need to revisit our whole creative or marketing strategy. We are not at the point right now, but I feel like it will come very soon. And right now, web page is already there. Like we need to reorganize how we describe the event, much more like less descriptive, but very direct and pointy. That kind of perspective really ideal to be searched by AI much better quickly. So that's how we are working on. And in the past, we add a lot of information to the images, and we just post the images on our website too. That looks beautiful and that worked very well. But at this moment, AI doesn't search the images properly or accurately. So we need to pull out all the information from the images to the text information. So that generate another like new task to make a better, suitable website structure at this moment.
I'm curious too, as a follow-up question, because you talked about having very direct, clear language. Do you find sometimes that's in contrast, to perhaps the artistic vision that you're trying to express and sort of the underlying, subtle themes of the art that we're promoting?
Yeah, that's one of the like point that we are really torn between. Like, AI doesn't emphasize the context or emotion enough as human does. So at some point, I really try to make a balance between the emotion and context and information because we are now working for AI only. Our target audiences are still community and human, and we want to make them impressed and happy and emotional with our film stuff, especially. So we really try to make a balance, like maybe some portion of the structure can be more our ambitious vision or emotional description, but at the same time, we have a specific website portion only for the search engine or AI or to be picked up easily.
Oh, very interesting. Okay, great advice. That's wonderful. Thank you. Okay, let's turn our attention now to paid advertising. I'm not sure about your organizations, but certainly at the National Arts Center, we spend quite a bit of money and energy and strategy on our SEM, Google AdWords, et cetera. And so would love to hear a little bit about how the AI adoption rates should and will change how we approach our paid advertising. So Beatrix, especially from an agency perspective, I was wondering if you can comment on that.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon. And hi, everyone. So nice to be here. Um, I also wanted to start out by bringing just a historical perspective that AI is in paid media is not necessarily very new. Google has been pioneering that for a long time. It started a long time ago with responsive search ads when we saw that creative variation being pulled together by machine learning to meet the audience goal. But then it expanded with Performance Max in 2021, and then 2023 brought demand generation campaigns. Like these are all AI driven campaigns that have been around for a while, and they all lean on finding the right audience based on audience signals. Which I would say like the biggest difference between Google and Meta, the two biggest paid media platforms, is the quality of data and the honesty of it. How we search on Google is different, how we behave on Meta. So just that kind of audience behavior is slightly different. Wanted to also mention that we have seen a lot of new platforms pop up in the last 2 or 3 years that are slowly on AI-driven platforms. They do serve on various platforms. A lot of it is programmatically bought and then will serve on social, but also on just programmatic networks. So it brings a lot of cost effectiveness, scaling efficiencies. And then we also give up some control and kind of see how it does in the last few years. Where we aim for preciseness is, budgets, delivering to the budget is very important. And then brand safety is another really important factor. Where are these ads served and what kind of ads are served? What is the mix that we approve and let to market? And then what kind of audience is kind of in the measurement of the metrics. So that brings up to me a very important point, which we can't really talk about paid media without knowing what does it look like to run a good, effective AI-driven campaign. A couple considerations here. Number one is that it relies on tracking. So our objectives, conversion tracking, and that audience signal clarity has to be there for these campaigns. If it's not there, it's just going to end up being kind of like loosey-goosey, not delivering to the most effective budgets, and then our KPIs are not going to look clean and good. But the other part of it is a really high quality and abundant creative supply. And I think this is where we've seen a lot of shift, especially since Meta has launched the Andromeda update last fall, as everybody is pumping out all these creative variations within platform. It's available now to any advertiser. You can create, different visuals in literally seconds. Not just ad copy. Ad copy creation has been around for a long time, but now the visual creation has opened up a brand new door. And you will notice it if you're, I look at ads differently, but if you look at your feeds on Instagram or Meta, you will see a lot of ads look very similar to each other. Where the creative variations were tapped. And then the last that I wanted to just mention, and this is, not necessarily to AI, but it's a high priority, is the one source of truth for reporting and modeling. The the greatness and the problem with all these different platforms is that they all associate, because the customer journey has now shifted and we are now tapping into the funnel steps a little bit differently. They all associate their impact to the conversions. So you have to be able to define how it's attributed to the success and what that attribution window can look like, and where is it, whether we're using attribution models of like first click, last click model, data-driven models. Those are important to factor in. So to answer the question of like where does it impact and how can we leverage AI in paid media, I would say that the planning and the buying process is still heavily human affected. And yes, it impacts how we think about the audiences, what are the first party audiences that can be tracked and available, what kind of steps in the funnel can we take, and especially like matching it with creative, absolutely. For budgeting and buying and booking it on the different channels, we have seen a huge shift from going from, placements and like really controlled bids and getting into micro segments, especially on Meta and Google, when we see these like beautifully converting high impact segments. That's kind of in the past now. We need to really focus on tightly defined conversion events and making sure those attribution windows are consistent with our planning and reporting KPIs, so that we can get that creative supply into market at the right buckets, like at the right objectives and the right audiences. Where we do see a huge leverage, and this is where I would say it has opened up more, but this is something that's like tested and tried, is the execution. You can now definitely rely on the platform once it's set up in a campaign. You can definitely rely on them to find the message mix, what ad format is served to which audience, and the creative performance, like where does it go, because it will just try to get the best results towards that one goal, one objective. So if that objective is clear and you have a nice thank you page or a purchase confirmation page, then definitely it does really well there. It's the other part that we see a lot of utilization, sometimes with more success, sometimes with less, is the creative generation. Like I mentioned, it's very possible to do. It's easy to do for everyday users as well, not just, I I ran about 1,000 campaigns in the past year, so I'd say I'm a heavy user, but it's available for anyone. It offers the ad copy variation right at the setup. I would say it's very much a hit and miss and needs heavy overview. The visual creations is, again, like heavy human overview is needed. It will also create videos if you're not providing the platform with videos. For example, performance max campaigns will need a video, and Google will create a video. It's like very questionable quality. Coming from a creative agency, I will say doesn't always meet standards. So those are.
My gosh, so technical. Love that. I would say from a couple of the experiments that we've done at the National Arts Center, one of the other benefits is finding new markets that we wouldn't have necessarily thought has actually been a real interesting exploration for us. So that's been great. Dan, over to you in terms of the paid media side of things. How do you see more AI-driven paid strategy coming through? I know, as Beatrix said, AI's been in there for a while in terms of business intelligence learning, but do you have any examples or thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was such a good point that like AI has been here for a while. I still remember like doing the A/B testing in Google Ads, where you'd set two ads against each other, delete the old one, put the new one in, spend hours a week doing that. And now you have things like PMax, where you put in all of your assets, and it's measuring it against thousands of different measurements to get the best thing. Like it's such a great use of AI, and it can just do things a lot more efficiently than that old A/B testing. Probably aging myself slightly by talking about that A/B testing there. But yeah, as you said, Shannon, like the another good use of it is to find these like newer markets. Like my colleague Jen, who's the director of AI at our company, she does a lot of like thinking about using AI as a thought partner in your sort of like marketing strategic places, rather than like the tactical side of like how do we, launch these campaigns and optimize these campaigns. Thinking about like, creating avatars or like marketing profiles, like who is your ideal customer, and then using that to sort of like bounce ideas off. It can be really good at like generating and synthesizing those kind of things. And using it in copy is also like completely valid as well, like using it in images. But I think one of the things that really is overlooked is that using it as a thought partner, because you can match open-ended sort of like conversational thoughts that you might have in a meeting, for example. Like one of the things we do is like sometimes record our meeting, put that transcript into like a chat or a project in ChatGPT, or I started using Claude a lot more recently, and then match that with a lot of the data, like thousands of data points with. By combining that sort of like institutional knowledge that you have and that knowledge as a marketer, that what you should be doing, your audiences really well, and then combining that with data, there's kind of a secret sauce there, I think.
Great. Sounds like you've had some success with some of your clients then.
Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah,
okay.
It's been good. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Beatrix touched on this a few minutes ago, but I really would like to talk about the use of AI in content generation and creative generation in particular. Again, I know at the NAC it's been a bit hotly debated, in terms of what are the parameters through which we should use it for creative generation. It's, of course, very efficient, could be very creative as well, but also we need to respect the artists who have developed these things in the past and that we're managing copyrights, etc. So I would love to hear from you, Tio, a little bit about your point of view on the use of AI in creative generation.
Yeah, this is honestly very like controversial area, and I believe some of you already saw some of the Chinese AI technology recently launched a new features. Like I could see on the social media, there is some fighting between Hulk and the Spider-Man generated by AI. So that really make me fierce, like where am I? Like how I need to move forward as a marketing director, and I have tons of creators working together. So what could be our next strategy? But at this moment in my office and in this era, the way how we work with AI for the creation pieces, that really help us to boost a lot of ideas and really quick brainstorming, quick research, especially like the small organization like us. We don't have enough like budget or some human resources sometimes. But as Dan mentioned, that's really great, like a thinker for me and for our team. So that really save a lot of time actually to gather all the information so I can really quickly move forward to the next page with the basic researches. But obviously, all the creative side, it cannot be the final product at all at this moment, or it consume a lot of time or money at least. So definitely we need a human touch for sure. It's definitely mandatory. And as I already mentioned, it doesn't capture the emotion or context as human does. So definitely there is still a room that we need to manage. And from top of the view, as a person who need to manage all the marketing budget, and as Beatrix mentioned about the paid advertisement role, I can feel like the marketing budget is getting shifted from, for example, paid marketing to the content generation, because people also can feel easily that's generated by AI or not. And there are tons of the people still, oh, I don't like AI. And I can easily recognize the advertisement generated by AI, and I don't want to spend the money for that. Like there are lots of voices over there. And I think at this moment, I really try to figure out the ideas and the way how I need to create the content to make our consumer love our brand and love our content. Maybe AI can help us to increase the awareness, but I don't think that will help us to increase the like open mind or make them like or love our brand. So at some point, this is a big wave that we cannot escape. So I try to shift my role, how to, shine my brand and product, still make a strong link between our audiences and community. So I can also see the positive things and negative things at the same time.
Very good. So if I think I heard the little nugget in there that you're actually shifting some of your budget perhaps away from paid media into content creation. Did I capture that
Yeah,
right too as well? Okay,
yeah,
great. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
interesting.
That's one of the
Mhm,
experiments that I'm doing right now. For example,
mhm.
last year we create the contents with the local influencers, and it was really like humorous and very local context, 30-minute second video that super work well than any other paid advertisement. And people just love that. And they want to talk to them and they want to chat about it. It's not like a AI involved conversation. So I saw a little bit of like potential where we need to stick to maybe.
Very good. Beatrix, did you want to add anything more to that?
Yeah, we see, yeah, thank you. We see a lot of like value and then also a lot of cons to it as well. I will just like list off a few things. One of the values that we see is it can lower the cost of exploration when we're doing creative development. So to quickly see how a concept will work and like how it would translate to an asset, that time and cost can go down really quickly with AI tools. The other one is that it can really fast pump out new things. So that scale is definitely there, and we are not able to, humans not able to compete with that. The quality of it is another question, but the scaling can happen fast as well. So if we need, different creative sizes, or if we need different like colors or variations in the visuals, like those can happen. Again, like quality is not 100% there yet, but definitely can reduce some of that time of creation. And where I also see a lot of value is that the mid-flight updates. So we often do to avoid creative fatigue or coming to longer campaigns, especially coming out of the learning phase at that certain times, either it's a time frame or reached impressions. That mid-flight update is very necessary, and that can come from creative copy change, or it can come from ad format change, or it can come from a visual change. So that is a lighter lift now than it was before, and it can be pretty good. Where we really struggle with that is consistency. Like good campaigns need strong concepts, they need clear value propositions, we need good like on brand visuals and messaging, and that is not something that AI does well yet, or we haven't seen it. That's, you really need strategy and creative conceptualization to work together. Where that variety can work is asset delivery, and I think that is also, again, like if we put quality aside, like that could be somewhere where we can optimize towards and get pretty good at. But I think the biggest issue with AI is the brand safety measures, compliance issues, usage rights, brand misuse, placements. Those are the big guardrails to put up.
Very good point. So if I can understand that, in the perfect scenario, we would have a bank of visual assets that are perfectly on brand, a bank of copy that is on brand, and would all be intermixed and let AI do its thing. But of course, that's not reality necessarily. Yeah. Okay. Okay, wonderful. Okay, we're just have a few more minutes in terms of this discussion. I wanted to sort of close out this part of the discussion with perhaps a little bit of a broader organizational, cultural perspective perspective about, given this pace of change that we honestly have never seen before, do you have any advice on how organizations can sort of create a mindset, a growth mindset or an adaptive mindset? Like, how do we become so nimble uh, in order to just sort of face the change that's upon us? Any guidance on that? Tio, do you want to kick us off with that?
Yeah. When I was in the previous company, some of the leaders said to the team, like, don't use AI. Like, we really care the confidentiality. So please don't use AI in the office and please delete all the apps. Like that makes some of the fear, especially to the young generations and juniors, like, okay, we are using the ChatGPT every day, but now I cannot use that in my office. Like that kind of energy really blocked the experimental opportunity, I believe. But AI is already here. But I think there is some difference between the each organization and the industry, so we can respect definitely. But I might would say like we can start with a task force team. Like we can start a small experiment with a small group with a low priority task first and see what we can do like we have done in the past with other new technology. This is one of the new technology, like we have internet few decades ago and other few features. As a marketer, new technology is coming just every day. So I would say like having an open mind to the new technology and see what is the like pros and cons and what is the proper approach to embrace the new technology would be really ideal. And I can see that's probably need to be led by the leadership in the organization. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good. We touched on leadership. That's a very important point. Is that how do we, at our most senior level, how do we make sure that they're open to the fact that we're going to be learning our way through this, which could be a bit tricky. Dan, do you have any points of view on creating an organizational mindset that is more adaptive?
Yeah, it's something we think about a lot. I think it's like the use of AI has made a lot of people in the arts like really uncomfortable when it first started. I think we have to call that out, like of like, I don't know, I don't use it for my like a lot of my side like artistic projects, like my strange little comedy things I do in basements. I think a lot of it is to do with like intentionality. If an organization is not intentional with how they are using like AI, or putting up strict like boundaries of like, hey, this is where our line is, this is where we want to use it, this is where we're not using it. If those are never drawn, then it becomes really, really difficult to use it and not feel like either weirded out or unsure if you're doing the right thing. And so I really think it does come from like a top-down approach, really, to set those boundaries where they are. I know to bring up like Jen, the director of AI at our company, she does a lot of work with like vision statements. So we have like a vision statement that is outward facing, about like how we want to use AI in terms of we have strict rules about we never let it imitate an artist, for example. We never want to say like, draw this in the style of like Rockwell Kent. We would always avoid that. Just for one of the examples of our vision statements. And we also have like internal guides, which are like more like policy, which is stuff that, if I can go to our internal like handbook and see like this is how we want to use AI, really understanding like, in terms of like data, here's the things you do put in, here's the things you never put in, that those kind of things become more and more important. So I think starting that conversation and figuring out those guidelines, those like where you are with how you feel about AI and where your lines are is really, really important. And it doesn't have to be forever. Like those lines can change if you do if we discuss like the AI world is moving incredibly fast. So these are bound to change at some point, but it's worth having that conversation. I'll post that vision statement in
Oh,
the
thank
chat or
you.
something. I don't know where it is.
Oh, that'd be
No,
that'd be
I was
great. Dan.
trying
Thank
to
you so
find it
much for
just
that
now.
generous sharing. Okay, wonderful. Listen, we've got lots of questions for our panelists. So with this, I'm going to turn it over to Aubrey, who's going to moderate some of them.
Great.
Aubrey, over to
Yes.
you.
Thank you. We do have lots of great questions. The first one, actually, we have two questions that are similarly interested in the question around the mistrust of AI data quality and biases in it. Kapakoa which there was a link in the chat earlier about some work that they're doing. They ran some tests, and AI answers seemed to be biased towards music performances that were particularly international touring acts. And then somebody else is asking about the perception that AI might be biased towards male artists versus female artists, and that whether their women artists, whether their content is being picked up. So I wanted to ask everyone about that sense of getting through the bias if you are a more experimental artist instead of that big touring artist, or yeah, are you perceiving other kind of biases being picked up? Anyone can jump in here. B.
Anyone, Dan?
Yeah, we've like talked a lot about this, and we don't have like the best answer to it, to be honest, in terms of how to avoid those biases, other than just being really conscious of those biases. The like one of the things we saw when doing some research on theater was we were looking at like targeting for families, and like AI naturally assumes that family is the like nuclear family of male, female, two children. It's because it's built off the data humans have created, thus it has biases baked in, and there's no way of like avoiding that in terms of like the output in terms of but I think what we can do is just be really conscious. I think putting the human element into this AI work is vital in the arts, making sure that we are never just like trusting the AI and going with it, just like taking what it says and putting it straight out there. Right? We constantly have to be that stopping point, right? That like barrier before it goes out into the world. That's in terms of biases, in terms of like, thinking about the output that puts in, or like preferring like male artists is a great example that I've not even thought about. Like, so yeah, just being like really, really conscious of that in terms of like, yeah, that's that. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Beatrix or Tia, do you have any further thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think Dan already mentioned what I wanted to say, but how sad it is, like we need a new skill set to recognize real thing and unreal thing. But I think this is where we are. I think that's one of the skills that we really need to take care of with the new technology from now on. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. To the question of content creation, if we, the audience here today, are in the business of providing artistic experiences, because we are running arts organizations of various types, isn't it liable to backfire in the eyes of our audience if we choose to market and represent those works with AI generated images? If we're representing our work with generated art and audiences notice, does that undermine their confidence in what the quality of work that we have to offer? And Shannon, I think you've had some debate at the NAC about this.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. And I wish I could say here's the answer, but we're debating it still. What is the line to be able to be respectful of the artists, and we were just working through the advertising campaigns for next season, and we were talking about that. And so I think Dan and others have sort of said, as long as it always has the human touch to it, it's absolutely critical. So it could be used for idea stimulation, concept exploration, etc. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we're preserving that. But I hear the debate. Others, what I'm just so curious to hear what others have to say about that.
If you don't mind, I jump in. But yeah, that's our biggest struggle, I would say, in the arts advertising, is to make sure that it doesn't look like AI, even if it is created with AI. I would say a lot of the visuals are, I mean, in my experience, but a lot of the visuals cannot really come from AI. It has to come from humans. Some of the copy could potentially, like a small percentage of it, because it's less traceable, as long as it's on brand and it's in line with the value proposition, and like those guidelines are still met and followed, then some of it can come from it, but really not necessarily a good idea, I would say. But I totally understand the cost efficiency of it, the speed, the scale, like to be able to be effective on especially paid media, but also on own channels. Like that's it's a real struggle.
I'd also say, like, your brand is so valuable as an arts organization. We work the average age of a company on like the S&P 500 is 20 years. We work with organizations that are 50, 75, 100, 150 years old. They've been around because people trust them as an arts organization, right? And so you really have to remember that in all of your marketing, that like people are coming to you for a human experience. If you erode that and give them this awful experience of like a AI person, like I think that can suck sometimes. Like it looks so bad. Like you've put all this work, hundreds of years into like getting your brand to really represent like the best of arts in Canada, the best of arts in the USA, for the organizations we work with. Like, don't throw that away for the sake of, $300
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
like a whatever,
And if I
quick
can add,
quick and easy content. Yeah.
yeah, if I can add it to it, I'm working for the film industry, and the film industry probably one of the most conservative industry to absorb the new trend or new wave, especially in terms of the AI at this moment. But I really want to respect the creators and artists that I'm working with. So last year we created the main campaign with the theme named Human Crafted Storytelling, Human Crafted Creation. So we intentionally use the handcrafted art for our marketing campaign. And as we mentioned, there are tons of different area we can integrate the AI features, but I think as of now, we don't need to use that AI for the creation or art. I think that's the like minimum boundary, or that's how I'm working for this, industry and film. That's the my perspective. But I think there are tons of other way work with the art and human. So I think we can keep that and see how we can embrace these AI things to survive together rather than destroying the art.
Mhm. Excellent. We know inside a lot of organizations, there's some internal hesitation or resistance towards AI adoption. What have you seen as effective ways to introduce experimentation without creating fear or polarization? And in particular, maybe in smaller organizations such as yours, TO, where there isn't a huge team to tackle this.
Oh, sorry, I think I missed the question. Sorry, I was reading the chat.
That's okay. Maybe Shannon, you want to get started?
Sure, no problem. The way that we've tried to approach this change management is to start small and using pilot projects. So we started with some campaigns where we could sort of adhere to that notion of having good content. We had good creative, we had good copy, and sort of start play our way through this. We've also been working with Beatrix at Banfield to also do some testing controls. So what if we did an AI generated campaign that through this supplier versus that supplier, which has performed better? So we're really just trying to start small and slowly expand. We find it easier to run those campaigns on those that are a little bit more overarching versus very tied to one artist. Sometimes that's a little bit easier. So it's sort of broader NEC-wide campaigns. But yeah, that's how we've approached this through experimentation and showing results at the end of the day.
Beatrix or Dan, any thoughts about this?
I just wanted to add that I think what I've seen working for our clients the most is to have those clear standards set up right away. Those are really important, those boundaries to pull. So like, what's our brand safety? What's our tolerance on risk? What's our, what is that what we're never going to do? What is it that we can be like, okay, we can try this? And what is it that like, we absolutely need this to be AI driven and we cannot let it be anything else? And having that set up and clearly communicated early on is where we see a lot more alignment.
Yeah, definitely.
I was going to say, just like with like internal pushback, like I can only speak for like at capacity, but within capacity, we all come from like theatre or dance or art backgrounds. We're all deeply passionate about arts. And so there was like I think a decent amount of like hesitation to put that, but like one of the things you can do if you are trying to encourage people to use AI within an organization is just, yeah, like everyone said, like start with something small. And also, like, everyone's got something about their job they dislike. I don't like everything I do 100% all the time. And so automating the stuff that you really don't like, and it's not like, mission critical for brand, for example, is a great way to start. Like one of the things we often do is, look at, this is getting really dorky, but like look into like the search console and like the search terms report in Google, Google Organic and then Google Ads, and like match some of those. Like, it's kind of time consuming, right? But if you automate that, no one's going to argue against automating that kind of stuff. So that's a way to sort of like start in using AI strategically and tactical.
Is there much of a difference between a website that's optimized to be read by AI versus a site that just provides a positive user experience in general? So Tia was talking a little bit about, punchy language, semantic clarity. That seems to be goals that suit a human end user as well as the AI user. But are there potential trade-offs where one might end up sacrificing user experience, a human user, to optimize for AI?
So in my view, as I mentioned, I think from image to text-driven structure would be the main component. But at the same time, as Nik shared a report earlier with everyone, like AI is still like a sub-additional component in terms of the information search. So we cannot generate all the information or the structure only for the AI. But I'm still learning every day how the search engine result is getting different and how the new customer find the information and what they say. Hey, I found your event through ChatGPT or heard from another human. Like, we're gathering all the information and how to and figure out how to integrate the new journey for the customers. So I think we are still learning, but main thing is image to text driven.
If I can jump in here, just referring back to that research that we just saw from Nik presented, how when we think about what is the website role in the customer journey and what is AI's role in the customer journey, it's more on the discovery still. Like, people are very early on in their journey, and then they verify it on the website, which I often refer to as like owned channels. So website, your social, your own entities. And but the website, and it's very important to consider that the website is going to be there for the consideration phase. It's going to be there for the conversion phase when I'm actually ready to buy a ticket. And I'm not going to go to ChatGPT to buy a ticket. That's it's not the trend right now. The trend is that I will check out what kind of events. Like, that discovery phase is very different. And so thinking about the website as a catch-all for all three, but then the AI optimization more of like that phase where I'm going to meet that need of the user is an important consideration, as well as, AI isn't going to convert on the site itself. And normally that's our number one goal in the arts organization, is to ticket purchases. So yes, we can have, all these other great goals as well, which are very important: awareness and content and engagement on the site. And that is not coming from AI. The discoverability is coming from AI. So it's an important distinction in the front end and in the back end setup of the website.
That's such a good point of like, where is AI in the customer journey, especially with like things like the AI overviews where you can start to interact with them now, as well as ChatGPT. Like, people are starting to, if that is earlier in the journey, it's not getting attributed to ChatGPT. It's not getting attributed to these AI overviews, but people are still finding out everything they want to know about your like event. Let's say you're going to the theater. They want to know like things like, where do I park? What's the run time, et cetera, et cetera. Stuff that like in the before like AI would be in your visit page, for example, but now using that directly on the page so AI can reference one page and get that information really efficiently there is really, really important. And the discoverability is important because like anyone who does come through from ChatGPT, we've seen that any like AI traffic is 4 to 6 times more valuable. I can't remember where I saw that study, but I did see it somewhere. I promise it's real. But like, yeah, the traffic that does come through ChatGPT is really, really qualified because everyone who comes through after that has already done all the research, right? They're not coming to you to browse, then going back. You're getting more qualified traffic with the people that do eventually come to you. In terms of like usability, like the Venn diagram of SEO, AEO, which is AI style SEO, and usability like SEO, like those three are overlapping. Like the more usable you can make your site, generally, it's going to help with AI tools as well.
Yeah, I think Lucy mentioned about it in the chat as well, and I want to also add it to it because I think AI changed the customer journey. They make the customer skip the information search stage because AI know my preference already. So if AI doesn't recommend something to me, it means people think like, okay, that's not in my filter. And AI didn't capture the information, so I would not consider. So that is the power of the AI and the change how the AI make right now for the customer journey. They make us skip the search stage. So that's the kind of fear that I'm having. They don't think about like, I'm gonna go Google and search and check the website and check the details. They don't want to do that. They ask simply to the ChatGPT, I want to do something this weekend, recommend me based on my preference. Okay, here's a top 3 activities that I recommend. And they just buy the ticket from there. So I think that's the changes that I'm seeing right now. Yeah.
All right, well, we're almost at time. So I just wanted to reflect on the fact that Nik's data really showed that we are just at the beginning of an inflection point with that recommendation rate quite high compared to the usage. With that in mind, how should institutions approach staff training right now to be ready for this explosion? Shannon, do you have any thoughts? You got your
Oh, I feel like I'm learning from this webinar more than anything. Staff training, I mean, exposure to things like these conversations, to be honest. We're really just still trying to even socialize it, I think, more deeply and broadly in our organization. And of course, relying on our expert partners, including Capacity Interactive, including Banfield, to help us also lead the way a little bit. So that's the way that we're approaching it.
Yeah, I think seconding like the exposure is the only way is to kind of do it. Part of that is like figuring out how you think about AI as an organization and then just starting and like seeing what you can do with AI internally. Someone posted in a chat, I'm going to try and find it, but it's really hard to do things at once. But someone posted about the like something big is happening post. I can't find it now, but like, that had like a good guide, I think, to like starting to use AI. Yeah.
All the links shared in the chat, we will collect into our resources after the fact. So if people are looking for that, we'll be circulating. Beatrix, any final thoughts about getting ready?
I'm still with the set your standards. Yes, it's very important. The exposure is great. And I just think that it's very important to have that conversation internally of, what are we trying to achieve and what is it that we can keep for AI and what is it that we must actually keep human.
Theo, final comments?
Yeah, it was really informative, and I also learned a lot from the panels and everyone. It's great questions that I really need to think about it. As a small organization employee, like it's not easy to get some like education or some enough like support, but I'm trying to assign a small portion of the budget so my team at least can explore with the new a lot of different AI platforms. So see what they can find or what they fail and what we can do actually. So I think intentional, like assigned budget would help us a little bit. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. I certainly learned a lot. There's a lot to absorb on this topic. I'm sure this conversation is not the last that we will be having about it. A big thank you to Shannon for moderating this discussion and our panelists, Tio, Dan, and Beatrix, for contributing your insight and expertise. We really are very grateful for it. Thank you to Nik Nanos for the analysis of the data. And thank you to National Arts Center and Nanos Research for continuing to partner with us on the Arts Response Tracking Survey. Thank you to Camdo and Irfan Raji, who are both continuing their support. And finally, a big thank you to Power Corporation of Canada, our presenting partner of the Business and Arts Speaker Series. Thanks also to RBC and ACG, who are supporting partners of the Speaker Series. I'd just like to take a moment to highlight that applications are open for ArtsFest Regional in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, and Ontario. This program's focus is to grow sponsorship capacity for small to mid-sized arts, culture, and heritage organizations by equipping them with the tools to attract and retain corporate partners, which includes matching funds incentives for attracting private sector support. Applications close for the regional programs on March 12th. If you want to learn more about any business and arts program and event, please head to the Business and Arts website for more information or follow us on social media. So many thanks, everybody, and have a great day.